Good morning and welcome to Sacred Place Live, our online time of gathering in a public reflection. Beginning next week will be hybrid, so I'll be doing this in person with those who feel safe and comfortable to join us at our mission center, or I'll continue online in the same way that I have. So you can join either way. Whatever feels safe and comfortable for you. We will all be masked still here at the Mission Center, so that should not be a concern from that level of safety. I want to welcome you into this time of reflection with a song.
Oh, beautiful love, with arms of a mother, holding her daughter, and guiding her son. Beautiful love, with strength of a woman, birthing her children, bearing their pain. Every breath that you breathe, every song that you sing, strong and gentle, wild and controlled. Every move makes the sound, every tear feeds the ground. Oh, strong and gentle, beautiful love, with eyes full of comfort and hands that have nurtured. House is our home. Oh, beautiful love, dressed in all wisdom, all God and all human, so light and all love. Every breath that you breathe, every song that you sing, oh, strong and gentle, wild and controlled. Every move makes a sound, every tear feeds the ground. Strong and gentle, beautiful love, with eyes full of comfort and hands that have nurtured. Your house is our home.
We continue our Revolutionary Love series, and you may have noticed I skipped a scripture reading. It's hard to pull one text for this from my understanding of these words. We have to look at the entire life of Jesus. He gathered around him his disciples, and they lived life together. As he did the work of trying to make justice real amongst his people. He surrounded himself with his friends, whom, yes, they were those who he taught, but in living life together, they cared for one another. We don't see Jesus take time by himself too often. He does so at the garden before his death. But as Valerie shares in her story of dealing with the trauma of her community and the ways in which she felt called to fight for justice in response to all of the violence, especially in this chapter's story from Oak Creek, she realized that this care for ourselves is not an individual act. She writes this: "The world sends a barrage of signals that our bodies as women, people of color, women of color, queer people, trans people, and disabled people are not beautiful or strong or worthy of love. Taking the time to breathe, literally and metaphorically, is a way to assert that our bodies are worthy and beloved. Loving our bodies is the first and primal act of loving ourselves." As she goes on to talk about this, it's something that happens in community. Yes, we have to take care of our individual selves, and she shares that part of her story too. But if it's not happening together, if we are not breathing together, then all of our work becomes something that is a cost to our bodies. Jesus, in his moments, shares a little bit of that. So now I have a reading from the 26th chapter of the Gospel according to Matthew. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. He said to the disciples, "Stay here while I go and pray over there." When he took Peter and Zebedee's 2 sons, he began to feel sad and anxious. Then he said to them, "I'm very sad, as if I'm dying. Stay here and keep alert with me." Then he went a short distance further and fell on his face and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, take this cup of suffering away from me. However, not what I want, but what you want." He came back to the disciples and found them sleeping. He said to Peter, "Couldn't you stay alert 1 hour with me? Stay alert and pray so that you won't give into temptation. The spirit is eager, but the flesh is weak." A second time he went away and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible that this cup be taken away from me, unless I drink it, then let it be what you want." Again he came and found them sleeping. Their eyes were heavy with sleep. But he left them again and again, went and prayed the same words for the 3rd time. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, "When you sleep, will you sleep and rest all night? Look, the time has come for the human one to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Look, here comes my betrayer." Now, this story from our usual Holy Week texts is often talked about when the disciples can't stay awake. But I see Jesus trying to understand what is happening. The giving up of his body that he will soon face. He pauses to spend time in prayer, to spend time reflecting and being present with God. It's unfortunate that his friends couldn't stay awake and be with him in that moment of sadness. But he still has them with him, and he takes this moment before giving of himself to find stillness, to find a moment of respite. So often we don't have that chance before we face something like this. And it's in the after that we have to find the ways of breathing. Valerie writes, "This is what I want to tell you. You don't have to make yourself suffer in order to serve. You don't have to grind your bones into the ground. You don't have to cut your life up into pieces and give yourself away until there's nothing left. You belong to a community and a broader movement. Your life has value. We need you alive. We need you to last. You will not last if you are not breathing." Jesus is a difficult example here because he does give of his life in ways that we are not expected to. And maybe that's the contrast in this particular text, in this moment in Jesus' life. We have to care for ourselves in ways that we may have to sacrifice to serve others. But that doesn't require us to suffer. To serve is to love another. But that shouldn't come at the cost of being able to love and care for ourselves. Valerie learned that in her own experience, and I think during this pandemic, I've learned that for myself. We've had a difficult 18 months. Well, it's 19 now, right? The ongoing pandemic has been difficult for all of us. Yet, we must stop and care for ourselves. We can't expect ourselves to keep on going in the ways that we did. When we are experiencing a collective trauma, we have to stop and care for ourselves, to find moments for us to breathe, and to do so together. That's what these moments on Sundays have been for me. I stopped expecting so much of myself and have chosen just to be present, to share, to reflect on what is going on in our world and in the stories we read from Scripture. The traditions we have are important, but caring for each other is maybe the most important. And in a church as small as ours, in a church with a long history, but also doing something new, this care is about doing so as a family, as a community, caring for one another. It's not just about me as pastor shepherding and caring for all of you, though that is part of my job. We do so as all of us, checking in and caring for one another, reminding each other to breathe, to take care of ourselves so that we can give of ourselves. as we focus on creating justice, inclusion, and family in our world. We can only do so if we are healthy in ways, not just mental health, though that is an important part of it, that I think has become clearer in these last 18 months, 19 months of caring for ourselves includes mental health. It's okay to say, I don't have the capacity to do this right now. I need you to help me. When we create sacred places, they must be safe enough to say those things to one another. Breathing is a physical thing that we must do. And as Valerie learned, let me just read this part from the book. Loving ourselves can begin by breathing together. We carry in our bodies and psyches the trauma of our ancestors, but also their resilience. How did they breathe together? What were their rituals? Singing, chanting, dancing, drumming, shaking, bathing, plunging, burning, walking, writing, resting, eating, sleeping, meditating, expressing gratitude, retreating, body work, and being in nature. Notice which practices your body wants. If some practices come from someone else's tradition, seek out people who are sharing such teachings in a culturally respectful way. Now think in rhythms. What can you do every day, every week, every month, every year? This isn't meant to be self-help, but rather creating balance in your life. By creating moments for you to physically breathe and to metaphorically breathe, to pause and reflect, to pause and just be. Those are important in this work of revolutionary love. The practice of breathing and loving ourselves is a personal act, but as our first quote shared, it's a political act too. It is standing up and fighting for ourselves, for the work that we do together. And breathing, in our understanding in the tradition, the Christian tradition, the breath of God has been imbued in us. Humanity was brought to life by the breath of God. And that living breath is in every breath we take. So in these moments of breathing, we find our connectedness with one another and also with our God. We see the need for that connection, and we are reminded of it. It roots us in why we do what we do and fuels us to keep doing that work. I invite you to take a moment to pause, close your eyes if you want, and just breathe. I have a song for us to do that now. There's a little bit of just instrumental music at the beginning for you to pause and to breathe. I invite you to do so now in this time.
This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me. This is my daily bread. This is my daily bread. Your very word spoken to me, and as I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you. I'm lost without you. This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. Your holy presence living in me, and as I'm desperate for you, and as I'm lost without you, and as I'm desperate for you, and I'm lost without you. I'm lost without you. I'm lost without you.
So, though we are not together in person in this moment, we can still care for one another. We can create in our sacred place, wherever that may be, a moment to stop and breathe. One of my favorite features of my Apple Watch is what they've now called the mindfulness app. It was the Breathe app before this update. And you can set it at whatever intervals you want. It can pause and remind you just to sit and breathe for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. To stop and take deep breaths. I invite you to take moments throughout your day, throughout your week, to pause and do that intentionally. Notice what happens to your body. Your heart rate slows down. You feel calmer for just a moment even. There's a lot going on in all of our lives. Take the time to rest and care for yourself. Because that's the only way that you're going to be able to do this work to which we are called together. To create justice. To increase inclusion. And to care for all of God's family. Until next week, whether it's in person or here on the interwebs, remember that this is your sacred place.